Good evening. My name is Kimberly Robson, and I'm the Senior Director for State and National Campaigns at Save the Children Action Network. Thank you. Welcome to the last session of Save the Children and Save the Children Action Network's 2020 Virtual Advocacy Session. Thank you for taking time for your evening to join us tonight to learn how you can participate in the upcoming week of action. We have heard from a number of you that you want to know how you can get more involved. If you'd like to learn how you can continue to be a voice for kids after the summit, you can sign up at savethechildrenactionnetwork.org/act/volunteer to be contacted by a SCAN staff member about volunteer activities. We'll also put that link in the chat box and in the comment box on Facebook Live. Before we jump into tonight's session, I want to take a moment to reflect on the past sessions and what we've learned along the way. The summit began with a dynamic conversation between Mark Shriver and renowned chef and humanitarian Jose Andres. The two talked about everything from immigration to activism and feeding hungry children during the COVID-19 pandemic. And who could forget Jose's dynamic quote from the end of the evening? "We can become a very powerful army of good. We need to weaponize empathy. We need to make sure that empathy wins. And if we're going to be contagious of good things." I want to get that printed and hang it up by my desk so I remember it every single day. The next session, we had the privilege of hearing from four amazing women from around the world. Save the Children Girl Champion Nina from Armenia opened the session with an impassioned speech about advocacy. I know I was ready to act after that. Then Save the Children President and CEO Yanti Shripto facilitated a conversation about the impact the pandemic is having on the global community, specifically children. I was so moved by their passion and ambition. It was a great reminder of why our advocacy matters. Finally, last week we heard from three childcare experts. Each came with a different perspective on how the COVID crisis has affected families, providers, and kids, and gave us advice on how we can help those kids. As Suzette said, those of you who have the privilege to speak up for these children, these childcare workers or providers need to. Throughout all of these sessions, I found that there was one main message: we are not hopeless. And I found that to be extremely reassuring. This crisis can feel overwhelming and all-encompassing, but we are still able to advocate for kids and families and make a real difference. And all it takes is using our voice. In fact, our virtual advocacy summit has generated almost 1,500 messages to Congress. I'm excited to keep that energy going. So tonight we're going to provide you all the training and information you need to help us end our advocacy summit with a strong, united voice for kids by participating in our week of action next week. Before we get started, once again, please join me in sending a big thank you to Community Playthings for sponsoring our 2020 Virtual Summit. Thank you to Community Playthings for your flexibility and ongoing support. We could not do this work without you. So now it's my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker this evening, Mayor Stephen Benjamin from Columbia, South Carolina. Mayor Benjamin has served in his current role since 2010, and he also serves as president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. As we began planning this year's Advocacy Summit, Mayor Benjamin's name came up immediately as someone we wanted to have as a speaker. He joined our South Carolina Advocacy Summit last year, and his passion for advocacy left us feeling inspired and excited. While he was originally planning to join us in Washington, D.C. this year, we're grateful that he was able to join us tonight with our online session. Mayor Benjamin, thank you for joining us tonight, and I will turn it over to you.
I worried, Kimberly, if I could actually handle that transition well, so thank you very much.
You did great.
Thank you so much. It's an incredible honor to be with all of you this evening, even virtually, and to join Mark and the entire team to see this incredible vision at Save the Children do the great work that you're doing all across the globe on behalf of our most precious gifts. You've indeed done amazing work everywhere. And when I was invited to speak, of course, I was planning to be in Washington, and I was so encouraged when I understood that we would shift nimbly to a virtual advocacy uh, summit. Uh, I was very fortunate growing up. Like many of you, if God had let me pick my own two parents, I couldn't have picked better than Sam and Maggie Benjamin. They were not only my parents. I grew up in a house full of love, and they were my mentors and my advocates. I remember going to work with my dad vividly, just shy of my 12th birthday. He was a contractor. He gave me a putty knife, and it was my job to go tape up outlets at a construction site and to help him paint. Um, my mother was the one who was more the disciplinarian. She was the one who'd keep me straight. I was a kid who had not yet learned that God gave me one mouth and two ears to understand I should listen twice as much as I talk. I was fortunate in that I had parents who loved me, who were mentors to me, and who advocated for me. And it's amazing how many children may not have that now, but not because their parents don't love them, not because their parents don't advocate for them, but because so many people across this country, indeed across the world, are working 2 and 3 jobs pre-pandemic just to make ends meet. So the work that you're doing to help ensure that people have access to quality childcare in this country, to make sure children in developing nations have the opportunity to also live up to the God-given potential. It is meaningful in so many different ways. It's important. Obviously, the purpose of this summit is to be able to personalize in the communications that you might have with the members of Congress, if you're fortunate enough to connect with your House members and your senators, to help them understand that the need in our communities is so great. I indeed see fifth graders squirreling away food on their trays still on Fridays just to make sure they have enough food over the weekend before they get their next solid meal on Monday. We've seen children growing up who need fresh fruit and vegetables growing up on Happy Meals, and they need protein and whole grain. We see children who aren't learning their multiplication tables, who aren't learning the 3 R's, reading, writing, arithmetic, because they're too busy trying to survive in some of the toughest communities all across this country. We've seen mothers and fathers working multiple jobs just to make sure that they can make it in the greatest democratic nation in the history of the world. These children, their parents, our great communities need advocates. And that's why it's so important that the work that you do, that folks like me and others come and make sure that you know, that we know and appreciate the incredible work that Save the Children does. Uh, just since the beginning of the pandemic, since the World Health Organization declared a pandemic on March 16th, our schools shut down not long after, we've had over 30,000 children not yet report back to school. I mean, that in virtual school or go physically to the school to have a welfare check. We have children who've fallen off of the grid. We need advocates for those amazing children to do the amazing things that we know that they can do, because we all know that while genius knows no zip code, opportunity certainly does. And the work that you do at Save the Children makes sure that every kid in this country, indeed across the world, has the same opportunities that you or I may have had. These children can do amazing things. They're going to help change the world. We've watched automation and advanced machine learning and AI literally take leaps and bounds just over the last several months because of the coronavirus. These children, 65% of these kindergartners will be working in jobs that don't exist now because the world's changing so fast. So the work that you do is going to enable them to live strong, viable, and fruitful lives down the road. We have to make sure that we take on this task, and I believe that taking it on means that you have to really be aggressive advocates. Again, that activism without action is just a conversation. 1,500 or so contacts already just in the last few days is amazing. Keep reaching out. It takes just a minute. Now, always when I think about the minute it takes to make a phone call, or to send an email, or to sit down and write a personal note, I've taken back on the habit of writing personal letters since we've had the stay home, stay safe orders. Making a personal connection makes a difference with your members of Congress, and it just takes a minute. And I love to think about Dr. Benjamin Elijah Mays, the former president of Morehouse College, and Dr. King's mentor, who said, I have only just a minute, only 60 seconds in it, forced upon me, can't refuse it, didn't seek it, didn't choose it, but it's up to me to use it. I'm gonna suffer if I lose it, give account if I abuse it. Just a tiny little minute, but an eternity is in it. 1 minute of advocacy for your members of Congress, for your senators, for others who might be able to help change the fortunes of a child in some of the roughest neighborhoods and some of the most challenged rural communities without broadband children, who represent the 194 nations, sovereign nations of the world, who just need an opportunity, just one shot. That's the importance of the work that Save the Children does. And I'm so thankful to have a moment of your time tonight to continue to encourage you to do the amazing work that you're doing, to keep leading, to know that even in the wake of the most challenging pandemic in a century, I'm encouraged to see that you hadn't taken your eyes off the ball, you haven't taken your eyes off the prize, and you're continuing to forge ahead for our children. Thank you. May God bless you and keep you, and know that you have an army of supporters out here supporting your work every single day. Bye-bye.
God, Mayor Benjamin, I don't know if you can hear me. It's Mark Shriver. You can hear me? It was, wow. Your words were absolutely fantastic. I'm honored to be the head of Save the Children Action Network, to be working at Save the Children as well, running our U.S. programs all across the country. And I just I wrote down a couple of notes that you just said there, the 30,000 kids that are off the grid and the amount of the struggles they must be going through. I mean, if that doesn't get you fired up to advocate on behalf of those kids, I don't know what will. And that's just in Columbia, South Carolina. I love, Mr. Mayor, your comments about having 2 ears and 1 mouth so that you can listen twice as much as you talk, about the importance of just having one advocate out there, and that beautiful saying about just 1 minute is so important, 60 seconds. I've heard those words before, and they're so very powerful. So I know we've had a great series of exchanges on this virtual advocacy summit. I want to thank Community Playthings again. Kimberly said it at the outset. I want to reemphasize it. Jan Juliet up there, my friend, and his family and the community has done so much for us. I just want to thank him. The words from Armenia, the words from all across America, it's just unbelievable. I'm excited. We got next week, it's the week of action, but tonight we're going to celebrate a little bit, okay, everybody? It's strange to be sitting here. I just finished a bag of popcorn that my daughter made me. Listening to Mayor Benjamin, I'm fired up. We're going to give out a couple of awards. We used to give out just 2 every year, a Student of the Year and an Adult Advocate of the Year. But this year we're going to do that, and we're going to do a community action team of volunteers and a student club who made big impacts for kids all across the country. So I hope you're all as excited as I am. I wish we were together, really do. And I wish I didn't have this little phone here. I wish we were all together, but here we go. So the first award is a volunteer from Iowa, great state of Iowa out there with EJ. I don't know if any of you have watched televised debates, but if you did, I was watching the Democratic debate from Iowa, and the question was from Tiffany from Clive, and they asked about childcare. And my wife turned to me and said, "Did you guys know anything about that?" And I said, "I don't know." And bam, it was such a great question. And that was from Tiffany Welch, who's been a SCAN volunteer since 2015, and she's now serving as the community lead for Central Iowa. She has been all over Iowa, bird dogging candidates, getting our messages out there. On the Iowa, folks and I have had over 100 in-person meetings with candidates in 2019 alone, and 40% of those were led by Tiffany. It's amazing, right? Wow, 40 meetings with candidates themselves. She's done so much on behalf of our efforts in Iowa, getting that out. So I want to congratulate Tiffany Welsh, who is our Advocate of the Year. Guess I'm going to stop for just 1 second and ask Kimberly or Katie Seppi, is Tiffany speaking, or does she get to speak, or do we just all clapping virtually for her?
We're all just clapping virtually for her. She's on the line though, and she hears all this.
There's no way to patch her in. I mean, I had a conversation with her after that debate in Des Moines, and it was so, powerful listening to her. She's saying thank you on that screen, but I guess we can't patch her in. Gosh, Tiffany, congratulations and thank you so much. I mean, it's really fantastic. The work that you did in Iowa and raising the visibility. There you are, smiling away with Elizabeth Warren. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. So congratulations. And all fired up here in my dining room all by myself. Our second award comes from Illinois. And we had a lot of outstanding nominations to choose from. But the effort, the person we've given the award to has done a lot of work in both high school and in colleges. And of course, I'm going to mispronounce her name, but it's Sohan Doz Ubasad. I am sure I just mispronounced that, but done such, there she is. Looking fantastic. Done so much at Richwoods High School and Robert Morris University in Peoria. She's organized professors and students and parents and her family to help set up events and trainings. It's so exciting. Helped recruit and prepare advocates to meet with Representative LaHood, U.S. Representative LaHood. She also is led on building public awareness about the importance of early childhood education, and spearheading the planning of documentary screenings to engage Peoria's voters. So congratulations to her as our Student Advocate of the Year. I hope she's on here, Kimberly. Is she? Yep, there we go.
Yep, there she is. Yep.
Yeah, congratulations. I hope I didn't mispronounce your name too badly. But thank you so much for getting folks fired up on the high school and on the college level. Okay, so on our new award, folks, for the second year in a row, done a lot of great work in New Mexico. Look at that group right there. The Community Impact of the Year, Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'm fired up. I've spoken to your governor down there, Michelle Lujan Grisham, multiple times. She knows about the work of Save the Children Action Network. She's called me up and said, I've seen your people. They're all over the state. I've seen your ads. I've seen the letters to the editor. I mean, I'm not making this up. I keep saying to the governor, I wish we could take her on the road to go talk to funders, because she understands the power of the work of the Albuquerque Community Action Team. And it's just been so much with state lawmakers. And they made a huge difference, not only last year, but this year, or I guess 2019 and 2018, and a big impact. So I want to thank the Albuquerque Community Action Team. I mean, look at this stuff that they've done there. Valentine's Day cookies to all 112 lawmakers during their advocacy day at the Roundhouse. I love that state capitol there in Santa Fe. They've testified in front of committee hearings, made coordinated phone calls, published letters to the editor, held in-district meetings, hosted a letter writing party. I mean, it just goes on and on. What is this? Collected and delivered over 160 lawmakers postcards. I mean, that's a fantastic team in Albuquerque. The kids in New Mexico, they're going to need our voices now more than ever all across the country because of some of the profound cutbacks that are going to be experienced. So congratulations to the Albuquerque Community Action Team. And we're going to have to get right back up on the horse and do an even better job this year. And then the last award, there's some, I've been looking at these little things here. Oh, I've been usurped. It's from the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. It's done so much for our work. Look at that. That's a great picture, right, everybody? They're not only enthusiastic about their advocacy, but they've consistently stepped up to the plate to take advantage of all the opportunities, the major opportunities we've done there. They've done a terrific job educating lawmakers in their community, including the mayor of Chattanooga, influential state lawmakers and their members of Congress. I was in Nashville just a couple of days before the country closed up, met with Bo Watson, the state senator there. Again, these folks are not, it's not because of me, it's because of the work that folks like the UT Chattanooga student ambassadors have been doing, getting the word out there, sending those letters to the editor, spreading the word out there, and it's amazing. They really know what's going on. Mike Bloomberg, I know that you all did a lot of work with Mike Bloomberg, which really moved his work on early childhood education on his short-lived campaign. So I just want to thank you so much for getting your fellow classmates engaged, for getting them registered to vote. I never saw the TikTok. I got to watch that, but I guess you guys all put together a TikTok to bring some energy, some joy, some levity to a really challenging situation we're in. So congratulations to the University of Tennessee Chattanooga team. It's fantastic. Just want to say congratulations to all you. So I got my pen in my ear, and I'm going to turn this over to Diana Unken to talk about our week of action. I'm just going to read one or two statistics here. That in 2019, you all, SCAN advocates, Save the Children Action Network advocates, wrote, called, signed their names to more than 800,000 messages to local, state, and federal lawmakers, engaged candidates at over 170 events, and had almost 200 meetings with elected officials. And just this evening, we found out that Senator Ernst from Iowa is doing some work now, going to propose, I'm off on my number, but I think it's $25 billion for childcare in the next stimulus package. And it's exactly the result of really the work of the folks in Iowa, meeting with her, working with her over a series of years, and turning her really not only in the right direction, but becoming a strong advocate for childcare in America. So when you hear the mayor saying, when you hear the mayor say that, take a minute, make that phone call, send that email, write that letter to the editor, it makes a difference. You got to, get in the arena, as Teddy Roosevelt said. You're not going to get that letter published every time. It may not take your phone call, but it registers. And you got to just stay in that arena. Once asked my mother, who started Special Olympics, did she ever get discouraged, especially in the early days when people with developmental disabilities, developmental differences were locked up and imprisoned and isolated. And she said, you just got to stay at it. Just stay at it. Don't give up. And I often say that she was like a dog with a bone, and she would just bite that bone and never let go. So just don't give up. These kids, as the mayor said, these kids need our voice. I'm just looking to make sure need us as advocates. And activism without action, as the mayor said, is just a conversation. Conversations are nice, but we want activism with action. So, Diana, I'm going to turn it over to you. I want to thank our friends at Community Playthings who year after year have helped us out, have supported us with their students, training their students who are engaged, making financial support, lending their voice. They're fantastic advocates, and I want to just thank them again. So, Diana, over to you. And folks, stay at it. Next week is the week of action. Just keep grinding it out and keep going, okay?
That's great.
Thanks so much, and congratulations to all the winners.
Thanks, Mark. So I'm fired up. Mark's fired up. I'm fired up. I'm ready to go. I hope you are too. So my name's Diana Unken, and I'm the National Campaigns and Digital Director for Save the Children Action Network. Thanks so much for everyone who showed up tonight, who's going to get involved with the Week of Action next week. We literally can't do all this great stuff without you. And you heard from Mayor Benjamin and from Mark about how critical it is that we're using our voice now more than ever. So I'm going to actually start with a little poll because I'm curious to just have a sense of how many of the folks on tonight have actually reached out to lawmakers before. So you can check all of these if you want, or 3 or 4 or 2, whatever works for you. But the question is, have you reached out to your lawmakers? In which ways? So have you emailed them, called them, contacted them through social media, or you've never contacted your lawmakers before? And let me tell you, there's no shame in that last one. If you haven't contacted your lawmaker before, that's fine. After the Week of Action, you're going to be a total pro. So go ahead and submit your answers. And while you're doing that, I'm just going to kind of tee up the session. So I was really inspired by Mayor Benjamin's remarks. I mean, he talked about the power of advocacy, about using your voice, to help our most precious gift, which is, our children. And I think, I was also inspired about how we talked about kids needing advocates so they can do amazing things. It's really what it's all about. And we also just saw from the Advocate Awards that Mark just presented to some really amazing, just everyday folks who wanted to use their voice on behalf of kids. What a difference it can make, right? What a difference these calls, these emails, letters to the editor, showing up at lawmakers' offices and just sticking with it. What a huge difference that makes. And so that's why we're getting together next week for our COVID response week of action. That's what it's all about. So can we check in on those poll results? What do we have? All right, so I have to say, as the digital director, I love that 84% of folks have emailed their members or their lawmakers before. Good for you, that's great. And more than half of the folks have called, which really impresses me because I find that that's often the thing that folks, kind of feel a little uncomfortable with, so good for you. And then contacted through social media, so 37% of folks have done that. And we're gonna, again, by the end of tonight and next week, you're gonna be a total pro. So if you're in that, other percentage of folks, I can't do the math quickly enough, who haven't engaged on social media, that's okay. And then 12% have never contacted lawmakers before. That's fine too. Like I said, at the end of this week, you're going to be a total pro. So what I'm going to do now is kind of walk through the week of action. I'm going to give you some background about the asks because I know not everyone has had a chance to attend all this session. So I want to make sure everyone's comfortable with what we're asking for next week. And then we'll kind of go through the days. So we're actually going to start with when the week of action is. So it starts next Tuesday, May 26th, and goes through Friday. We're not going to do anything on Monday out of respect for our veterans. And we designed this week of action to really be a simple way that you can engage from the comfort and safety of your home in 5 minutes or less. Mayor Benjamin talked about 1 minute, I think can make a big difference. And a lot of these actions can be just 1 minute, but definitely no more than 5. And every day you'll receive a short email from us with a reminder about what the action is that day. So I'm going to do that brief overview. And then a couple of my colleagues, Ed Sterling and Sam Rakawaja, are going to do a deeper dive into some specific tactics. So let's just start with what we're asking about. So for those of you who were on last week, we talked about the child care crisis. You heard some amazing speakers, and if you didn't hear them, I'm going to do a quick overview right now. Some amazing speakers talked about the real challenges that child care providers are facing. So many have closed because of the pandemic. They couldn't stay open because of the need to socially distance and, kind of flatten the curve, as we're saying all the time about a month ago. But when it's time to reopen, they face a number of increased expenses. So everything from additional cleaning supplies, from securing personal protection equipment, staff trainings, rehiring staff that maybe, some staff moved on when they had to be laid off or furloughed during the child care providers when they were closing their businesses. They had found something else. They had to find something else, so they'll have to rehire staff as well in some cases. Child care providers were already operating on really thin margins before the pandemic, so now these increased costs coupled with reduced numbers of kids who are coming, which means tuition isn't coming in at the same rate, is really increasing costs and decreasing revenue. So obviously that's a super challenging business model. And we're already facing a major childcare crisis before the pandemic. We know from our work, for years in the early childhood education space, that parents were really struggling to find care in a lot of communities all around the country. So this putting families in a bind, putting kids in a bind, and certainly child care providers. In fact, experts estimate that if child care providers don't provide adequate funding from the government, that around 4.5 million, that's 4.5 million child care slots could disappear. That's about half of all licensed child care slots right now. So serious problem. And we know that the child care industry is really the backbone of our country, of the workforce. Parents, frankly, can't work without child care. So that's why we're asking Congress to provide $25 billion in dedicated funding for the child care industry in the next stimulus bill. Mark talked about Senator Ernst's resolution that was just released today with that very ask. So that's what our ask is for child care. So the other issue that we are focused on is the needs for kids all around the world. Kimberly mentioned that, so I think it was 2 weeks ago now, we heard from some amazing girl champions from Armenia and Nicaragua, and a Save the Children staff person in Colombia who talked about, what the experiences were of kids in those countries. So right now, the situation is very dire. COVID-19 is spreading throughout the world, millions of kids are at risk of hunger, they're at risk of illness and learning loss. An estimated 44 to 66 million children could fall into extreme poverty. That means that their families are living on $1.90 a day. That's $1.90 a day. That's all to live on. The number of people at risk of starvation is anticipated to double in 2020. There's likely to be disruptions in health services, so kind of basic health services, which could lead to 1.2 million children under the age of 5 dying of preventable causes. And 1.5 billion children have been forced out of school because of the pandemic. This is an especially serious issue for girls because they're less likely in many countries to go back to school. And when they are out of school, they're at a greater risk for violence. So this is obviously really serious, and the COVID-19 pandemic really threatens all the amazing progress that's been made for children around the world in the last 20 years. So we are asking Congress to provide no less than $12 billion in foreign assistance funding to ensure that vulnerable children have what they need during this crisis. So that was very quick, and there was a lot of numbers and stats and facts, but don't worry, we're gonna hook you up on our Week of Action page. We have fact sheets that have more information and details on that. So don't worry about memorizing all those things. You don't have to memorize all those things. We have more information we can share with you, and for each day we have a pre-made copy already for you. So before I dive into each day, what I want to remind everybody is what Mayor Benjamin said about personalizing, like telling your story, sharing what you are experiencing in your communities and why you care. That's critical. So each day, we've created some pre-made copy for you, but we're encouraging you to customize it, to share why you care. If you have a personal connection to the issue, please share that, because it really will go even further than, kind of a basic email, which is also important. So let's start with Tuesday. So on Tuesday, we are starting out easy. I think a huge number, 84% or something of you have sent an email, a message to your lawmaker. So this is what we're doing the first day. So 2 emails here for you. And you, again, can customize it. When you click on the email to get ready to send it, there's a little box and you can add your own message. It looks like it's opening now for us. A little message that you can customize and, add your own story or information or why you care. That really does resonate with offices. Offices keep track of the emails that are coming in from constituents. They count them. They want to know, they want to be able to report to their bosses what they're hearing from constituents. So volume really matters here. So next week, make sure that, on Tuesday, you send these emails to your members of Congress so that they're hearing about these critical issues. On Wednesday, we're going to get social. So on Wednesday, we are taking it to social media, and we're going to ask folks to post on either Facebook or Twitter or both if you're feeling especially active that day, and to tag your lawmaker. So tagging lawmakers is surprisingly effective. I don't know about you, but when someone tags me, I'm on Facebook a lot, and when someone tags me, I'm like, ooh, why is my friend tagging me? What's going on here? And I go right to see that first before I look at anything else. So let me tell you, lawmakers are no different, right? They are looking to see who's tagging them, who's talking about them. Their staffs are checking it out too. So this is a great way to, elevate the issue with lawmakers directly, get some extra attention on these issues, and really tagging lawmakers can go a really long way to kind of gaining attention for our issues. Now, my colleague Samra Kawaja is going to walk you through how to tag your lawmakers on Facebook and Twitter in just a few minutes. So I'm going to move on to Thursday. So on Thursday, we're asking you to call your members of Congress. So many of you have done that. I was super impressed by more than half of you have called your lawmakers. That's amazing. And calls really make a huge difference because frankly, it's not something people do all the time. I mean, most people are not calling their, members of Congress every time they, are concerned about something. So it really is that extra step that you're taking to connect with your member of Congress. My colleague Ed Sterling is going to walk you through how to make a really great call and how to have feel very comfortable when you pick up the phone. It may seem intimidating, but I promise it's quick, it's easy, and it really makes a huge difference. So finally on Friday, we are rounding out the week by spreading the word. So, we've got hundreds of folks on tonight. We've had hundreds of folks on, for the last month. But we also know that we just need a lot more people using our voices to really bring these issues to the fore. There's a lot happening around the world right now and in our country, and we want to make sure kids are front and center. And you can help by spreading the word. So we have these posts on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram that you can share. You can personalize with, maybe something you learned during this virtual summit or something you are really excited about to share with your friends and family and help educate them about this issue. So before I turn it over to Samra to talk a little bit about how to tag lawmakers, I just want to answer a question we get all the time, which is, does any of this really matter, right? Like, if I send an email, does anyone care? If I make a call, does this really matter? And I'm here to tell you it does. And we've heard so many examples tonight of how the different ways that it has made a difference, but it definitely does. We've seen, our policy experts that go talk to folks on Capitol Hill, now all virtually, of course, they actually take the numbers of messages that you all have generated. So when you send an email to your senators, your U.S. representative, they'll ask me for those numbers, and they'll take those numbers into meetings and say, I know that 111 constituents have contacted you about this issue in recent weeks. And it really does make them sit up and take notice, like, oh, my constituents really do care about this. These folks have to get elected, right? So they do care what you think. And as Mayor Benjamin said, and Mark talked about, I think too, it's really important to share your story, share your experience, why you care, customize those calls and those emails so that you're really connecting with the person on the other end. So I also want to acknowledge, though, that many of us are juggling kids and jobs and maybe sick family members, and there's just a lot going on in your lives right now. So if you don't have time to, add an extra sentence to that email to share your story, or really get really active on social media and post, tweet and post on Facebook and post on Instagram, that's okay. Just do what you can. You can always use our pre-made copy. That's why it's there, to make it really easy for you. So find that right balance for you, whatever works in the coming week. But the big need and the big ask is really that you participate each day, that you show up for kids, because as Mayor Benjamin said, if we don't speak out, who will? And these kids need us now more than ever. So I hope everyone will join the week of action, and I'm going to turn it over to Samra now to talk us through how to tag lawmakers on social media. Thanks, Samra.
Hey, thanks, Diana. Hi, everyone. It's so good to be with many of you again, virtually, that is. For those who don't know me, I'm Samra Kawaja, and I manage SCAN's social media. And tonight, I'll be walking you through on how to take action on social media during our week of action next week. And I promise you it will be very easy. No matter which platform you're on or which platform you're the most comfortable with, there is an action you can take, and I will go over it all. Like Diana mentioned, now more than ever before, people are on social media, so your post to lawmakers will be noticed, and they will go a long way. But there's one key component in getting your posts noticed, and it's all about tagging your lawmakers correctly, and I can't say that enough. But I'm going to walk you through the entire process. I have a lovely little presentation. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so you can follow along. Let me get this started. All right, here we go. Cool. So, like Diana mentioned, we have a wonderful webpage set up for you, and this is where you're going to go to access the social media posts and to share your actions. So I'm going to first share with you how to tag your lawmakers on Twitter, and then I'm going to go into Facebook. Twitter's going to be a lot more easier than Facebook's going to be, but I promise you at the end of it, you'll be able to successfully do it all. So first things first, what you're going to do is you're going to visit our website that Diana mentioned, which is SaveTheChildrenActionNetwork.org/actnow. This will be part of the follow-up, so don't worry, you're going to get this again, you're going to hear this again. And then each day is, the website is broken up by day, so Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And what you're going to do is you're going to scroll down to the middle of the page until you get to that Get Social part that Diana flagged for us. So when you get there, you'll see we have our actions broken up into two boxes. We have our child care action to the left, and then we have our international issue to the right. So I'm going to go over Twitter first and how to tag your member of Congress and how to go about sharing it on Twitter first, and then I'm going to go into Facebook. So what you're going to do is you're going to click on Share on Twitter. Again, you can take one action, or you can be a super duper advocate and volunteer and take two actions. But you're going to begin by hitting Share on Twitter. Once you hit Share Twitter, you are then going to be redirected to this page right here that you see. So you'll notice that your information is automatically going to be populated. You'll have your name show up, you'll have your address show up, and you'll also have your member of Congress information conveniently appear as well. And so what you're going to do on Twitter is you actually don't have to worry about tagging your member of Congress on Twitter because the platform is set up in a way that everything's going to automatically happen. But what you do need to do is put your tweet in there. So you'll see that we provided a sample tweet for you right here. So you're more than welcome to copy and paste this into this box, this white box right here. Or like Diana mentioned, if you can personalize it, that's better because it'll sound more like you, and it'll go a long way. So for the sake of this run through, I'm just going to use the sample tweet right here, and I'm going to paste it into this box. And then once everything looks good, once again, you don't have to worry about tagging your member on Twitter through this application because it's automatically going to show up. So just make sure your tweet looks good, it fits in the character count. You're then going to hit the Take Action button. Once you do that, voila, your tweets are going to be published and seen on your Twitter. So as you can see, these are my 3 tweets that went out to my members of Congress, and you'll see that each of my members of Congress are tagged because they're highlighted in blue. And then you'll see my post appears as well, and everything looks great. And that's it. That's all you gotta do on Twitter. With Facebook, there's a couple of steps involved. You're gonna have to do a little bit more manual work when it comes to tagging your lawmaker, but it's pretty straightforward. So we're gonna go back to this webpage, the SaveTheChildrenActionNetwork.org/actnow. And before we clicked on Share on Twitter, but this time you're going to click on Share on Facebook. And just like we did with Twitter, we also provided you with a sample social media post for Facebook. And so to get access to that sample post, you're going to click on this blue link right here. And from there, you're going to copy and paste it. So you're going to click on Share on Facebook, which is then going to redirect you to your Facebook page. So you'll see this box pop up, that's our action right there, and then you'll see it says, say something about this. And that's where you're going to paste either the sample social media post that we provided to you, or again, better, you are gonna write your own post. And again, it's more compelling, it's written in your own voice that way. You get to share an anecdote, or a story that may resonate better with your audience or your member of Congress. So I really recommend you do that, and don't feel like you have to write paragraphs and paragraphs in a post. Like, you can keep it simple too. You can say something as simple as, like in this instance, you could say, kids around the world need our help. Please help these vulnerable lives. Today, Senator Cardin, who is my senator, So don't worry about being complicated, keep it simple, and that's fine. But again, for the sake of this presentation, I'm gonna go ahead and copy and paste the sample post that I provided you guys into this box right here. So right here, you'll see in the sample post, there's a little space for you to tag your member of Congress. Now, this is where you should be paying attention because this is the important part right here. You may need to do a little bit of work in searching the correct Facebook page for your member of Congress. And I say this because many members of Congress have two accounts. They have one that's associated with their congressional title, so senator, rep, all that good stuff. And then oftentimes, they also have a second account that's either personal or campaign related. And we always want to make sure that we are tagging their congressional account because that's the account that they can engage with. So for example, you have Kamala Harris. I feel like that's the name we all know really well now. She is not only an active senator, but she also ran in the Democratic elections. So she has two pages. She has one for her campaign and she has one for her senator account. Now, if Senator Harris was your senator, you need to make sure you're tagging her senator account and not her campaign account. And the way that you know this is oftentimes the senator account will say Senator Kamala Harris. And there will be like a blue check mark, and that will be your indication that, okay, this is the account that I need to tag. So in my case, it's Senator Ben Cardin from Maryland. So when I start typing his name, which by the way, to tag someone on Facebook, you must have that @ symbol, and then you begin typing the name. So if you start typing Senator Ben Cardin, you're gonna get this little drop down appear. And for me, I had this drop down appear with the tag that I wanted to use, which was Senator Ben Cardin. And I know this is the account that I wanna use because the blue check mark is there, and it says Senator Ben Cardin, and from a quick glance, I can tell by the number of page likes that this is most likely going to be my senator's account. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to click on Senator Ben Cardin, and my tag is gonna be hyperlinked, which means I successfully was able to tag him. So once everything looks good, my post looks good, my tag's there, it's hyperlinked, it's blue. I'm just gonna give it one more read, and then I'm gonna go ahead and hit post to Facebook. Once I hit that, boom, I'm taken into Facebook, and that's it. My post is there, and you'll see Ben Cardin is tagged. He's hyperlinked in blue. So that's how I know I was able to tag him successfully. And my post is there as well. So it's really simple. You just got to make sure you're paying attention and you're not tagging the wrong accounts and you're not tagging some other Ben or some other Kamala who you may be friends with. So just keep an eye on what you're doing. So that's pretty much how you would share these posts and tag your lawmakers. I do also want to make a last plug that we have on Friday an action dedicated to sharing the scan posts that we post on our pages. So we are going to go back to our website that I just mentioned, SaveTheChildrenActionNetwork.org/actnow. You're going to scroll all the way to the bottom to where it says Friday. And then you'll see we have links to a Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram post from our Save the Children Action Network pages. And if you were to click any of these hyperlinks, you can easily just hit the reshare button, and your post will be reshared. Our post will be reshared on your channels. And if you're really a pro and if you really want to impress me, then you can even tag your member of Congress by resharing a scan post. So show me what you got and take action. I'm now going to kick it over to Ed. Thank you all for your time.
Thanks, Tamara. Wow, you made that look incredibly easy, because it is incredibly easy, which is great. Everything is really clickable, shareable, and I really like that you personalize that too. So the same goes for making a phone call. Now, I saw earlier in the poll I think more than half of you have already called your member of Congress, which is great to see. So this is especially important for the other half of you who maybe have never done this before. And what's really even fantastic about next week's Week of Action, as you saw as Diana and Samara went through the pages, is that we've made it just as easy to call your member of Congress as it is to share things on social media. So what we're gonna do tonight, I'm gonna call my senator right here, and we're gonna practice and walk through this real quick, and I'll show you how this is done. So let me pull up the page here 1 second. So when you go to, this is for Thursday. Thursdays are call day, and you'll see there's 2 different issues to call on. Tonight, I'm going to practice, well, I'm not gonna practice, I'm actually gonna call my senator to talk about our ask related to childcare. So one thing Dana highlighted earlier, when you prepare to call your member of Congress, one thing that's great is that we've provided for you a little mini script to use that when you talk to them, so that if you can't remember the ask or don't want to memorize it, we'll have it right in front of you when you call. But it's also great if you have a personal story. Like if you are a child care provider, if you are a parent, or someone who's been impacted by the pandemic, this is the time to share your personal story. So when I called my member of Congress earlier this morning, and a staff member in his office picked up, and we had a really productive conversation, and he was really helpful and heard my story. I'm going to be calling after hours tonight, so there's a really good chance I'm going to get a voicemail, but we'll see how it goes here in a minute. So when you click on the email or go to the page, you want to make sure, for many of you, it might actually automatically load your information, but you'll want to make sure you put your most up-to-date voter registration address where you're registered to vote to find out who your members of Congress are. So I've got my information in here, and as I scroll down, you'll see it should populate with essentially both your senators and your member of Congress to who you want to be connected to call. And what's great about this system is that you don't have to memorize or even dial these phone numbers. Is that we're going to go down and you put in your phone, which you want to make sure you have handy with you, or if you're doing this from your phone, because it's going to call you and connect you with your member of Congress automatically. So let's go ahead and get started here. I'm going to take action here and call my member of Congress. And I'm going to click this button here after my phone number. Oh, and one quick thing. You want to make sure, because sometimes it might load your home phone number, and unless you are near your home phone, you want to make sure that it has a phone number of where you are. So I have my mobile number here because I want to make sure it's calling my cell phone. All right, so I click take action. Looks like it's calling me. All right, hopefully it should go through any second here. All right, let me try one more time. Might be dialing me again. All right, so in lieu of reloading the page right now, what would happen is that a 202 phone number from Washington, D.C. will call your phone. And once you pick up and connect, a nice and kind robot voice will explain to you that you are calling your member of Congress and getting ready to invest in kids and thanking you for taking the time. And then it automatically connects you with the office of your member of Congress. Now you want to make sure and listen here, because it might give you a menu of options to do so. So it might give you the option to share your thoughts or opinions, to connect with a staff member, and staff member. This is a great opportunity to do it. I'm calling late at night, so the only option I have right now is to essentially leave a voicemail here. So hold on 1 second here. We're calling Senator Kaine. All right, I've got the voicemail. Hi, my name is Ed Sterling. I'm a constituent. I'm one of your constituents from Fairfax, Virginia. And I'm calling to ask you to support dedicated and significant flexible funding for the childcare industry in the next relief package. Due to the pandemic, wherein countless childcare centers face the real threat of not being able to pay their staff, including my own. And I want to make sure that when this pandemic is over, that my own kids, that their childcare center is going to be there when they're ready to go, so I can get back to work, and many of the families across America will be able to return to work too. So we need to be sure that we're providing all children and childcare providers the ability to open as soon as it's safe to do so, and that families can get back to work as soon as possible. We hope that you support this in future legislation. Thank you so much. All right, and that's it. And what will happen next is that it will give you the opportunity to call through your other members of Congress as well, and then land you on a nice page at the end thanking you for your time after this is all done. So I do want to say it shouldn't stop there. So after you call your member of Congress, you'll call your member of Congress and your 2 senators, you want to make sure that you share the word here. And I recommend that you find 5 other people to call their member of Congress as well, or encourage others to do so. I know part of the week of action is sharing these actions as well, and we want to make sure that we're getting as many people as possible to do that next week. So, so we're looking forward. Hopefully we get a lot of calls made next week. We're looking forward to hear how they're going, because we know we've already seen that these calls make a really, really, really big difference, and make sure that it's on the minds of the staff, and many of the members of Congress are going to be making some critical decisions in the next couple of weeks. So with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to you, Kimberly, here to wrap us up tonight.
Yes, thanks, Ed, and thanks, Samra and Diana as well for the great presentation. Also, a big thank you to Mayor Benjamin and Mark for joining us this evening. We have a few more things to get through. I hope you're all feeling excited about the week of action. We have a bigger impact when we come together for collective action, but it only works when each of us play our part. So tonight we're going to do one more poll, and we're going to ask each of you to commit to take action next week. So we've launched the poll here. So to take the pledge to the week of action, what are you committing to do? You can select all the above, or you can select emailing your lawmakers, tagging your lawmakers, calling your lawmakers, and sharing on social media. Whatever, as Diana said, whatever you have time right now to do. Everything makes a difference. So take a moment to fill out the pledge, and we'll come back to the results in just a moment. But once again, I have another favor to ask. Each session, we've asked you to do a survey for us. We're working really hard to create content that is compelling and educational. This is the first time we have done a virtual format for Advocacy Summit. And we'd appreciate if you could take a few minutes to provide feedback on how we did. In the chat box, you'll see the link to the survey. You can cut and paste that. Also, we'll put that on the Facebook comments as well. And again, while you're taking the survey, I also loved Mayor Benjamin's quote, and I wrote it down here, that activism without action is just a conversation. I am going to add that into my wall of quotes from this virtual summit, because I really think that is a critical piece. We can be activists, but we got to take action, or it's just a conversation. I also want to thank all of our previous speakers and panelists in previous sessions for sharing their stories and expertise. We know that it is a lot to ask of each of you and them to give us their time during these really kind of challenging moments that we're all going through right now, but we really appreciate the time that you've taken each week to be here and to learn how you can be a voice for kids. Believe me when I say it matters. It makes a difference, and it inspires others to take action as well. We just saw that with our Advocate Awards. Congratulations to all of them. They have been doing amazing work, and there's so many others of you out there who also deserve an award, and we appreciate everything you are doing. During these difficult times for many of I know, a difficult time for many of you. So I'm particularly grateful for you and your commitments to be a voice for kids. I know you have a lot of priorities on your plate right now. It's important that we all come together to advocate for kids who don't have a voice in our political systems. We've heard from the speakers about the challenging situations the kids here in the U.S. are facing and kids around the world, whether it's lack of access to educational materials or food or safety. You can be their voice. So thank you all of you for reminding me of how powerful advocacy can be. I know that together we can make a difference for kids and children in our local communities and around the world. So before we end, let's take a look at the poll results and see what kind of actions we're gonna have going on. Wow, 62% of you are gonna do all of the above. Thank you, thank you. We've got emails, we've got tagging, we've got calling. This is gonna be an amazing and impactful week. You heard Mark talk about the commitment from Joni Ernst, Senator Joni Ernst. You know, that it came from an in-district meeting of our volunteers talking to her and working with her to have her understand this, your impact next week is going to make a difference. So if everyone follows through on their commitments to be a voice for kids next week, we're going to have a very powerful week of action. So once again, I want to thank Community Playthings for sponsoring this virtual summit and sticking with us through what have been very difficult times as we have worked out the structure. I want to thank each of you for coming and joining us, whether tonight or every night, the last four weeks. Please, everyone stay safe, take action next week, and have a great night. Thank you so much.